The moon hung low, a pale sickle in the sky, casting long shadows over the cobblestone streets of Black Hollow. The town was quiet, save for the occasional howl of the wind and the distant creak of a weather vane. It was the kind of silence that made your skin crawl, the kind that whispered of things lurking just out of sight. Evelyn pulled her cloak tighter around her shoulders, her breath visible in the cold night air. She moved quickly, her boots barely making a sound against the stones. The vial in her pocket felt heavy, a reminder of the task at hand. It was a simple enough job: deliver the blood to the client and get paid. But in Black Hollow, nothing was ever simple. The client was a recluse, a man who lived in the crumbling manor on the edge of town. The townsfolk whispered about him, calling him a monster, a demon. Evelyn didn't believe in such things. Monsters were just stories to scare children. Still, as she approached the iron gates of the manor, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. The gates creaked open on their own, and Evelyn hesitated. She could still turn back, leave the vial on the steps and run, but the promise of gold was too tempting. She stepped inside. The manor was dark, the air thick with the scent of decay. Candles flickered in sconces along the walls, casting eerie shadows that danced like spectres. Evelyn's heart pounded in her chest as she made her way to the grand hall. There, seated in a high-backed chair, was the client. He was tall, his skin pale as moonlight, his eyes a piercing shade of crimson. His lips curled into a smile, revealing sharp, glistening fangs. Evelyn froze, her hand instinctively going to the dagger at her side. "You've brought it," he said, his voice smooth as silk. "The blood." Evelyn nodded, her throat dry. She pulled the vial from her pocket and held it out. The man rose from his chair, moving with unnatural grace. He took the vial, his cold fingers brushing against hers, and held it up to the light. "Do you know what this is?" he asked, his eyes never leaving hers. "Blood," Evelyn replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "From the butcher's shop." The man chuckled, a sound that sent shivers down her spine. "Not just any blood," he said. "This is the blood of a pure soul, rare, precious, and you brought it to me." Evelyn's eyes widened. She had been tricked. The butcher had lied to her. She took a step back, but the man was faster. In an instant he was in front of her, his hand gripping her wrist. "You've done me a great service," he said, his breath cold against her skin, "but I'm afraid I can't let you leave. You know too much." Evelyn struggled, but his grip was like iron. She watched in horror as he raised the vial to his lips and drank. His eyes glowed brighter, and his fangs lengthened. He leaned in, his mouth hovering over her neck. "Don't worry," he whispered. "It will only hurt for a moment." And then there was only darkness.